aviation industry. Of course, it would be nice to say that any day now, Russian airplanes will take to the skies and carry passengers. But as we know, deliveries are delayed and production plans will be revised. But is there a need to be so gloomy? After all, building airplanes and testing them is a very complicated business. In this program, we will tell you about companies that are connected with the aviation industry in one way or another. And here is our first story. Made in Russia. Republic of Dagestan, Kizlyar, Kutuzova Street. Light aviation. Without its development, developing Russia with its vast territories is simply impossible. It so happened that at one time, the production of small aircraft fell by the wayside. But now we are talking about a revival. This one, for example, was built in Dagestan. The airplane, we called it the Alpha KM. The prototype is the MAI 411 aircraft, which we fly and have flown. Well, this is a serious, deep modernization. And the blades, there were 2 blades there. Here there are 3. The engine, unfortunately, is still Austrian for now. Everything else is Russian. Testing continues, then certification, and starting next year, serial production. And here is another novelty, a helicopter. In terms of import substitution, we are superior to all other analogues of this type. The coaxial rotor system is ours, the blades are ours. The gearbox is ours, our own design. Now we are working on our own engine. We are sure that it will go down in the history of the plant. Since '62, they have been making products to conquer the skies. In particular, the ground engine verification system. And since 2016, they have been mastering the production of engines for airplanes and helicopters. In this case, the VK2500, the most common, most in-demand helicopter engine. Look here, year 17, 50 items. Year 23, even more. The bottom line, for 21-23, contracts were signed for nearly $1 billion in volume. Many things used to be imported only. Pressure sensors for aircraft engines, rocket launch devices. They used to make those in Ukraine. We became self-sufficient in all this by 2018. There is also a ground product. Instead of German ones, Kamaz trucks now have their own power steering units. And this year we have to deliver about 580 units. Besides that, we are currently developing components for Kamaz drones. Pedals, fuel level sensors, lighting equipment. Modernization is underway for the production of new products. In recent years, we have additionally developed 200,000 square meters of production space. We acquired a large amount of modern software-controlled equipment, including 5-axis machining centers. Personnel are needed. We plan to create a higher technical school and build housing for specialists. We also plan to increase exports of not only military, but also civilian products. Many Arab countries are interested in this helicopter. We exhibited mock-ups at the Max Air Show the year before last. There was a lot of interest. Next is a story about an exporter and production that is necessary, among other things, in aircraft construction and the space industry. Let's go to the Orenburg region. Made in Russia. Orenburg Oblast, Novotroitsk, Promyshlennaya Street. What happens if you combine chemical production and metallurgy? You get a plant like this in the Orenburg region, one of the world's largest producers of chromium compounds. Who buys them? Where are they used? You are about to find out. This is electrolytic flake chromium. To process it into the fifth stage, the cost increases twofold. There is a vacuum hydrogen furnace here, which allows us to make this product of the fifth processing stage with a purity of 99.5%. This is what a high value-added product looks like. A very necessary product. Where is it used? And your clients? Electronics, metallurgy, high-temperature alloys, including all lunar spacecraft and space exploration. This product is applied there. Chromium is a good electrical conductor, and the factory learned to produce it in different forms, powders, pellets. This is also chromium, but the quality is slightly lower. It is used in special alloys. Since the 90s, we managed not only to survive crises, but to increase volumes by 2.5 times. We stopped exporting raw materials and entered the top 3 largest producers in the world of the final product. Demand in the domestic market is gradually growing. We cover it completely. We fulfill the state orders that we have unconditionally. But we have surplus production, which we sell for export. Up to 70% of all production went to export before the sanctions. But in the end, those who imposed restrictions only made it worse for themselves. We are now moving to Southeast Asia. To that market, it is cheaper, more complex. We are slowly moving away, but in the markets we left, they don't have this product. They are now thinking that buying even with duties would be correct. Despite that, new markets, new challenges. Support is important. Regarding the export center, it is good. They help us with payments. They insure us. Plus, not all production lines, but some production lines receive transportation subsidies. Initiatives combined with support measures are effective. But enterprises are also advised not to sit idly by. For example, the Chromium compounds plant stood firm even with the drop in exports. They are building a research center, investing over 400 million rubles annually in development, and creating separate production facilities around the enterprise. We bought a line for the production of aerated concrete blocks with a capacity of 200,000 tons. And also production of drywall, mineral plates, aluminum paste for blocks, and even vitamins and ink for printing. This is where state support in the form of soft loans came in handy. The aid brings results. The Orenburg region is in the top 10, in 9th place among the country's largest taxpayers. We are actively developing the special economic zone. The total investment volume is over almost 42 billion rubles, 13,000 jobs. We have reapplied to the government to increase the special economic zone by another 300 hectares. And next, returning to the aviation theme, a story from the Khabarovsk region. Made in Russia. Khabarovsk Oblast, Khabarovsk. These drones will very soon be sent to the SMO zone to help our fighters secure victory. Now we will show how drones are produced in the Khabarovsk region and tell you where else they can be applied, besides the front. Well, shall we take off then? What is its payload capacity? Well, in this case, we lifted 3,200 grams. Grams. That is 3.2 kilos. That's not counting the battery weight, right? Yes, not counting the battery, that is purely useful payload. We started with the simplest model. That is our model presented here. We hung one up as a keepsake. At the moment, our enterprise produces 1 to 100 units. I can say that orders, after using our products, our orders increased exponentially. At the moment, our enterprise is negotiating for 5,000 a month. At the front, the model was nicknamed shawarma or shawarma due to its characteristic shape. An FPV drone costing a few thousand rubles can send an Abrams tank worth several $1 million to the scrapyard, which it successfully does. And the range? How far can you control it? How far can it fly? Our tests showed we can fly 12 kilometers calmly with a stable control signal and video link. Combat experience is the basis for the evolution of drone production. We have the ability to change frequencies, replace video cameras. There is a night vision module, night vision overview. The design allows for repair or modernization without disassembling the whole body, making it easier and faster to replace a specific module. The internals are mostly from friendly countries, but that is for now. The motherboard, the flight controller that is in the drone, this represents the very heart of the drone and will be produced here. And the batteries. Batteries, yes. By the way, this is one of the elements that we install, which is supplied by our domestic manufacturer. Receivers and software are of our own design. All this will be useful later for civilian models. Agriculture, yes, the Ministry of Emergency Situations, topographic surveying. Well, even in ordinary civilian life, it is a necessary thing. To develop the company, of course, the personnel issue needs to be solved. At the start, 5 people worked here, now dozens, and there are not enough specialists. The Regional Scientific and Production Center for the Development of Unmanned Technologies should help solve the problem. And on the basis of this scientific and production center, schools will be opened specifically for training people in maintenance, piloting, and full operation of UAVs. The center is based at the Pacific State University. The university purchases all necessary equipment with federal support from Project Priority 2030. This is part of the charter proposed by the governor of the Khabarovsk territory. Already 117 enterprises of the industrial sector have signed the Charter of Technological Re-equipment and Import Substitution and began to build internal technological and procurement chains that allow them to support each other. They allow supporting Khabarovsk brands, supporting Russian manufacturers. And as a consequence, at the territory of the mentioned enterprise, I reported this to the chairman of the government of the Russian Federation, Mikhail Vladimirovich Mishustin. He supported our Charter of Technological Re-equipment. It is important that many enterprises are not only increasing production, but also replacing imports. Here is an example from Dagestan. Made in Russia. Republic of Dagestan, Kaspiysk, Khizroeva Street. I used to play with glass marbles like these in my childhood. In the Soviet Union, they used them to make glass fiber. Then the goods became imported, production was lost. But in Dagestan, everything was restored, and now they produce many useful products. Which ones exactly? You will find out now. At the moment, there is no other production in Russia except ours that produces the marbles. And this is a big step toward import substitution. From one marble, you can draw 1.5 kilometers of thread. That is, a thread that feels like a normal thread, but it is glass that withstands high temperatures and heavy loads. And fabric is woven from it. This enterprise in Kaspiysk has been dealing with fiberglass since '64, but various crises almost put an end to the plant's life. But they didn't. We have been managing the plant for 6 years now. We are reviving technology, training people. We caught that moment when older people needed to pass on their experience to the youth, and we were able to do it. In 6 years, production volumes have grown tenfold. All products are import substitution. Glass threads, fabric sheets, roofing, roving, for electrical insulation, for printed circuit boards. This press material is used in aviation and shipbuilding, having the same properties as metal, but much lighter. In particular, for the construction of the new Russian MS-21 airliner, the Dagestani product came in handy. The aircraft, generally the interior paneling seats, it is used everywhere to make the aircraft as light as possible. Composite material is used in car bodies, trains and rockets. This is already a fiberglass product. It comes with a binder material, epoxy resin. You can easily make parts like this from it. Fiberglass mesh is useful in construction. There are very many areas of application for the products. It is used under plaster, and this is used for pipe insulation. This is the final impregnated layer. This is already for structural products like boats. Large boats, up to 70 meters, are made of fiberglass. They expect revenue growth of 30% for the year, but to grow further, they need to expand the staff. We faced personnel problems and found a solution by opening a correctional center on the territory of the plant. Inmates eligible for transfer are sent to us for good behavior, and they are trained. We make specialists out of them. Well, you give them a start in life. A new start, yes. They undergo adaptation. We have already created 2 such correctional centers. Another site is already nearing completion of construction, a place of residence for convicts. A very popular direction. We see that the demand from industrial enterprises is very high. They can replace all the working professions that are in demand today. The plan is for new types of products. For this modernization, this is helped by state support for the North Caucasus glass cluster, which the plant has joined. It's helped by a loan with Caucasus.RF for 1 billion rubles. As for other markets, joint production of fiberglass fabrics was even launched in Uzbekistan. And now it's time to return to the beginning of the story, where there was information about the construction of civilian aircraft. Made in Russia. Irkutsk Oblast, Irkutsk, Novatorov Street. Here are the workshops of the Irkutsk Aviation Plant, where the new Russian MS-21 aircraft is being built. Medium haul. Flight range up to 5,100 kilometers. Such transportation is the most in demand on the market. Yes, initially the aircraft was created in close cooperation with foreign companies. And aggressive sanctions, of course, had an effect. We had to replace an impressive list of components and assemblies, master technologies, including the composite wing, power plant, brakes, pumps. Enterprises all over the country worked on this, and this is what the general director of the plant told us last year. It is very important that our subcontractors do not let us down regarding the supply of import-substituted components. Supply is currently underway and installation work is also being carried out. The most important thing in an airplane is the engine. In the MS-21, it was initially imported, but in Perm they made the PD-14. Made in Russia. Perm Oblast, Perm, Komsomolsky Prospect. Yes, the PD-14 also had foreign parts, and they also had to be replaced. But creating an aircraft engine, a most complex device, takes years. And every change in both the aircraft design and the engine means testing. Again and again. After all, this is passenger safety. And this is how ground tests of the PD-14 are conducted on a special stand. Here they work out all the engine operating parameters. Tests not only on the stand, but under the wing of a flying laboratory and directly on the MS-21 itself. All the above is true for another project, creating an import-substituted Superjet 100 in Komsomolsk-on-Amur, a short-haul aircraft. They also had to replace an impressive list of parts. An engine is also needed. The PD-8 also tests and more tests. It is necessary to modernize production, and most importantly, specialists are needed. Here, taking the example of the Irkutsk Aviation Plant, we are building MS-21 airliners. And taking into account the additional format of increasing their quantity, today, with the existing headcount of more than 13,000 people working at the plant, we must bring this up to 17,000. And of course, today the plant and we are creating such joint headquarters where we form this agenda, because the region understands that it has a higher educational institution. It has 2 vocational secondary educational institutions where they train specialists for the construction of aircraft. Rostec, which includes the factories creating airplanes and engines, is also opening its own specialist training centers. For example, at the Ufa Engine Industrial Association. It was planned that we would graduate about 1,000 students per year across all training programs. Today, we already have the task of graduating about 2,000 people, and if we initially planned that our total contingent of students would reach this value only in 2025, we have already come to the point where the number of students here exceeds the indicators that were laid down in the investment project. 70% practice, 30% theory. Courses are also conducted jointly with colleges. The personnel shortage is serious, and therefore such centers are being created all over the country. In a country that knows how to overcome difficulties, specialists are being trained again. Technologies are being mastered. We have one of the world's largest production facilities for titanium, an aviation metal. Undoubtedly, a painful blow was dealt to the aviation industry. But Russia, with its huge territory, actually has no choice. It needs to develop its own aviation. And according to the head of Rostec, Sergei Chemezov, the aviation industry is now developing 1.5 to 2 times faster than in the West, despite, or maybe even because of, the sanctions pressure.